everybody, welcome to the Juneau-Douglas City Museum. We are doing our very first virtual First Friday, and since we are closed, unfortunately we don't have a new exhibit for you, but we thought that we would highlight a couple of interesting objects in our collection. So I'm Niko Sanguinetti, I'm the Curator of Collections and Exhibits, and Alyssa Borges, our Curator of Public Programs, is on the camera. And so today we're going to be talking about Nina's Originals. And Nina Chapman founded and worked at Nina's Originals for about 40 years. And Nina herself was born in Nebraska in 1904, and she moved with her family along the Oregon Trail to Oregon in 1909. She spent a lot of time on the West Coast and some time traveling Mexico before moving up to Juneau in 1939. Originally, she worked at the cookhouse for the AJ mine in Last Chance Basin, serving the miners in Silverbow Basin, and by 1946, she opened her own hobby shop in downtown Juneau. It's actually located where the CLL is located now. And that's really where she started working with leather and sewing and the process of building clothing. In the late 1950s, she opened her own shop known as Nina's Originals. And it was called Nina's Originals because pretty much everything she made in the shop, of which we have some wonderful examples here, were handmade by herself. They were her original designs, and they were sewn, pieced, and sold by her in her shop. And it really became a gathering place for a lot of people in Juneau, and there are still people in town who remember Nina and passing by her shop window and stopping in for a little bit of news. In 1967, she was actually invited by the company Abercrombie & Fitch to be part of the Frontier series that they had, and it was a promotional campaign that highlighted what they called Frontier Week, a look at the United States' last frontier, which would be Alaska. And they had week-long celebrations at their stores in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. So she traveled to through the three stores and was able to show and sell some of her work. By the 1960s, she was able to travel the world to collect some of the materials that she would then use to make her famous clothing and accessories. And she was really great at combining these various materials from all over the world with local Alaskan furs and leathers to create a very unique look. There are stories of people who actually would run into other people in places like Denmark or other places in Europe, and they would walk up to them and go, "Are you wearing a Nina's?" So it really had a lasting look, and in the 1960s it was the height of fashion, and you can actually still find some of her pieces being sold on some of the websites that sell upscale and boutique couture items, which is really fun. So she was open in business. She ran her store until 1981 when she passed away, and she is actually buried here in Juneau at the Evergreen Cemetery. And her daughter, Dawn Chapman, took over the business and ran it until the store closed in 1994. So very long-running business, the 50s to the 1990s, still well-loved and well-remembered. In our collection, we're lucky to have several examples of her work, and so we wanted to talk a little bit about those objects as well. Specifically, right next to me you're going to see a couple of coats. Both are made of leather as well as different fur and wool. So this particular black coat here on my left is going to have Parisian lamb's wool on both the collar and cuffs, and then the rest is leather. She did have particular styles that she used exclusively, and a lot of her coats actually didn't use any sewing machine or thread. They are completely pieced together by different strands of leather that you can see all along the edges, and then on the interior it's going to hold all the sleeves together and the pockets on there. And then the linings inside, mostly silk, are actually glued to the edges of the leather itself, and so that's how she held the liners in. So a bit unique, a little bit different than what you would normally see on pieces of clothing at that time. She also characterized fasteners. These pieces here are what she called skunk cabbage leaf fasteners. So you'll notice there's no zipper, no buttons, anything like that. The fasteners are actually two pieces of leather with a specific shape that resembles a skunk cabbage with a hole in it, and that's actually held together by another piece of leather. And so that's how both of these coats are held closed. There's nothing additional on there. This particular coat comes from Judy Crondall, and we actually have photographs of her wearing it from the 1960s, which is really fun, and it's always nice to have that personal connection. Great collection. The next coat over here was donated to us by Rich and Peggy Poor. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the personal connection that this coat has. They found it at a garage sale, and it has Nina's originals written into the collar line, but because it's a unique handmade piece, again, there's no regular tag or anything like that. And you'll see a lot of the similar characteristics between these two pieces. You're going to see the same leather straps that hold the various pieces together, same with the pockets, and then the skunk cabbage leaf fasteners here. Different from this coat, this has fox fur along the cuffs, and she did do a lot of work with traders, various Alaskan trappers in the area, and she would use not only fox fur, but wolverine, wolf, and various other animals that would be found here in Southeast Alaska or around Alaska in general. So the first one did have lamb's wool, this one's going to have fox fur. Not sure exactly what kind of leather these are, but there's a good chance it was made right here in Juneau. This next coat, or the last one in our collection, is a little bit different than the other two styles you'll see. Those first two looked very similar, used a lot of the same materials and same procedures. This one also is going to have, again, that same piecing and held together by the leather straps. And this actually uses deer skin, and then this is harbor seal. So something that you would find here in the local area. This particular coat was bought and owned and worn by Verna Vanderhait, who was the wife of Judge James Vanderhait, who was the first judge actually elected here in Juneau after statehood. And she kept it for quite a number of years before donating it back to us, which is wonderful. So it actually went with them to Anchorage and then came home here to Juneau. So 3 various examples of Nina's designs, and you can really see the similarities but also the differences and how wide-ranging her skills were, but at the same time really keeping that distinctive look, very, very Alaskan. So we're going to move from the coats to look at a couple of her accessories. We're just going to move right over here. And so you'll see here in front of me there's 3 very matching pieces, and these 4 pieces actually go with the fox fur coat that we just took a look at. They came as a set. It was very common for her. She liked to make full sets that you could then really have the full outerwear experience where everything matched. At that time period especially, that was the way to go. That's how you looked chic. So today we might not think of it in the same way, but it was a great opportunity to be able to purchase your whole wardrobe with one look. So matching the coat with the fox fur, this particular hat is a bit damaged. It is from the 60s, so it's seen better days, but still in really good condition. And then the fur itself is again red fox, and it is in very good condition, great pom-pom. The same thing, it's going to have the same makings, so it's held together by straps of leather, and there is nothing sewn on at all. And the interior, which I'm not going to pull off just because it is a wee bit delicate, is lined with silk. In the middle here, we're going to have a leather purse. Again, matches the fox fur coat and is held together by the leather straps, and then the drawstrings are actually the leather straps as well. This purse does not have an interior that's silk, very different from the rest of the pieces that we've looked at. All of them have had silk linings. This just has the treated leather on the inside. And luckily enough, this is actually a very mobile purse. The leather is in very good condition, which is a lot of fun for a curator like me, that you can really see its shape and see how it used to move and be held. And then moving along the last part of this ensemble, we've got 2 pairs of leather gloves. These gloves are actually held together by stitching, most likely done with a sewing machine, however still very unique and fully match the rest of the look from that outfit. And the last one that we have over here, as I'm sure you can guess for those who have been watching, it matches the first coat that we took a look at, the black coat. So it is also the Parisian lamb's wool on all sides, and then the various pieces are held together by the leather straps. And if I turn this for you to look at, even the back is held together by the leather straps. So It's a very unique piece of clothing and would be worn on top of a woman's head and completely match that first coat, and a wonderful addition. And then just a small note before we leave you, from a collection standpoint for a curator, a lot of what we do is research and learning about the people who created these amazing pieces of art. And the 1960s are not that far away, and because of that, sometimes finding information, it's old enough that it's difficult to find necessarily in an online resource, but new enough that people still remember and are still possibly owning these pieces in their collection. So in doing research for this particular video, I was lucky enough to stumble upon one of the oldest session records, actually from this particular session from Judy Krondahl, and it had a lot of information about Nina because she personally bought the hat and the coat from Nina from her store. So I was able to learn a lot about her as a person and see the personal memories of people of her in her store. And she had 2 children who had multiple children themselves, so by the time she passed away, she had a very large family here in Juneau and was a well-loved member of the community. So it's really fun for us to be able to continue that legacy here at the museum and really see something that was uniquely Juneau. It did spread all over the world. She actually was able to sell some of her pieces to the likes of Shirley Temple, but really very much a Juneau institution. So we're very happy to have these pieces, and perhaps you can go home and take a look in your own closet, see if you have any pieces like this. And if you do, we'd love to see pictures of it. Put on that old coat, take a picture of yourself, and post it on our Facebook page. We'd love to see it. And thank you guys very much for joining us at our virtual First Friday, and we will see you again soon.